right, so we're working through our 20 questions to reinvent our life, and today is day 4. All right, so I feel like because we did last night's session at night, it's still pretty early this morning. It's um, only a little past 9. So I feel like we just talked about this, which we did, but we're going to move on today to question number 4. Okay. So if you don't have the workbook, I will go ahead and let me drop the link in here for you. You can grab it and you'll have all 20 questions. This way, if you do miss a session, you've got it. The reason we're doing the 20 questions now at the beginning of the year is to really focus on not just where we are, but where do we want to be? What are the changes, the shifts, the things that we need to have happen in order to get where we want to be, so that this year really will be, you hear me say this over and over, our next best year. Like, imagine if a year from now you could look back and say, this was really my best year. This was the year that things really shifted for me, changed the trajectory of my life, moved into the direction that I've always wanted to be in. That's kind of what I'm claiming for myself this year, that everything that I've done up until now, that this is the year that it all comes together and happens, right? And so with that, I also know that then I need to make changes, right? I can't just show up as the same Tara that I've been showing up as and expecting a different Tara to show up. And neither can you. You cannot show up as the same person that you've been doing the same things, doing the same habits, thinking the same way, and then expecting a different person or a different life to then suddenly be there before you, right? And a lot of it starts with how we're thinking. So here, I'm going to go ahead and put this here, grab the 20 questions workbook, and it will be in the notes on the replay in the comment section or in the notes section below. So you'll be able to grab that. We have to start to, most of it is going to really come with how we're thinking. We have to think different. Oh gosh. Sometimes I wonder, like, it must be great to be a guy and go live. You don't have to worry about your lipstick being a little bit off, or like, oh my gosh, how do you look? I don't know. Maybe they do, and it's just me that I notice it more. But you have to like, it starts with our thoughts. So one of the reasons we're really diving deep into these questions is to start to think about things. To think about, what are we thinking about? How are we thinking about things? Are we being proactive? Are we being reactive? Is this like, okay, we've started the new year and now I'm just going to coast through the new year? Am I really going to have something different? All right, is this really going to be a different year? Because it's not just, we kind of all do this, right? We make these resolutions and it's really not, well, okay, let's start with this. We make all these resolutions. How come that most people, it only lasts for about 4 to 6 weeks? Why is that? Why don't we stick to these resolutions? I remember years and years ago, I was part of a gym that had a yoga studio. And I loved it. It was a very quiet yoga studio. It was a tab, but it was like in the gym, but it was separate. So you kind of had that yoga room vibe. And the room was kind of always like halfway full, right? And so I'm at the gym. I was going at that point. I was going multiple times a week. I was like in really great shape. I loved it. It was really meditative for me. Well, January hits, and I show up for my regular class, and legit, there were no spots on the floor. And I was like, oh my God, where am I supposed to put my mat? And I remember saying to one of the girls, I was like, what's going on? Why are there no spots? And she literally was like, oh, it's because it's January. Don't worry. It'll be totally fine in a couple of weeks. And sure enough, it was like that for about 4 weeks, 6 weeks. And then it went back to our regular size class. And that experience has always stayed with me, because it made me realize how many of us think we're going to make changes, think we're going to have something different, and really we just fall back into our old habits, into our old patterns, and nothing changes. And this is for me too, right? Like, this is I don't want that to happen this year. I want something different to show up. So it's not just, I'm going to make a resolution for this one day. It's really saying, I'm going to start to show up as the best version of me. I'm going to start to think about what I'm thinking about. I'm going to start journaling. Journaling is really powerful. There's something about that hand to the paper that is deeply reflective of, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And why am I not doing the things that I claim that I want to do? Right? So yesterday, the question that we went over yesterday, and I'll pull this up so we can all remember, it's what activities or interests genuinely bring me joy and fulfillment. And we really dove deep into what does it mean when we say joy and what does it mean when we say fulfillment. And we talked about that it was that delight, that pleasure, and that it also, that fulfillment was really that idea of being satiated, of that gratification that you get. So today's question really leads into this because we're talking about our love and interests. This is the part of the journal that we're in right now. And the question is, how can I incorporate more of these passions, these things that you wrote down yesterday, into my daily life or future plans? Okay. So now it's not just being aware. Yesterday was all about being aware. What are the things that we love to do? And we kind of dove deep. If you didn't watch that video, you can go back and check that. That was day 3 of, some of us are like, I don't even know. Right. So we kind of came up with our list. Today is now saying, okay, how do I take this list that I made, right? And here's the key. Let me show you what the key is. It's actually putting it into our date book. It's actually scheduling it. I will say I found this date book this year, my regular date book that I've used for years and years, that I always have promoted to everybody in my community, was changed, was horrifying. So I got this one as a new one. And actually it's better than what I had. So sometimes change, while most of us are resistant to change, sometimes change can be really good. I should move my microphone closer. Sorry if you guys can't hear me well. Change can sometimes be really, really good. This is actually better. It has 3 elements that I think are really key for a very successful date book. And I did a video about that. You can go and view that about why this is my new favorite one. Okay, but anyway, tangent. If we don't put it down, if we don't schedule it into our life, it is probably not going to happen. And I don't say probably, I say it's not going to happen. And I see this all the time. So I've been coaching women business owners for, this will be next month will be my 27th year in business. And I've been coaching for about 26 and a half of those 27 months, 27 years. So I have worked with lots and lots, thousands of women business owners. And what I see happen over and over again is that they have a very full life, right? They've got kids' activities, obligations with them, maybe their church, school. They have a full-time job. They have home obligations. They have a lot of things. Like their life is full. I rarely meet women that are like, I'm sitting around doing nothing. Sometimes that'll happen. Sometimes I'll have somebody who's like, I've been home for years. My kids just went off to college. I don't know what to do with myself now. Or they have been home with little kids and they're staying home, but the kids just went off to school and now they're like, I don't know what to do with my days. So that can happen. All right. But I would say for the majority of people, they've got a lot going on or they feel like they're busy. Okay. And so now they want to start this business and they're going to do it when they get time, when they get around to it. They don't actually put it in their calendar like you would if you got a part-time job, right? If you got a part-time job, you'd have to schedule it into your calendar because your boss would say, this is when you have to show up. And you'd be like, all right, I got to be there. I'm going to be fired. Well, so so what happens is if you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. And then they wonder why their business isn't progressing, why they aren't making money, why they aren't building the client base that they want, because they actually haven't put it in their calendar. And so we talk a lot about creating a weekly plan sheet and time blocking and having that time set aside and treating it like an actual business and not a hobby. And we can do a whole other session if anybody's interested in that. Just jot that down, the difference between a hobby and a business, because there's very clear distinctions. And most people think they have a business and in fact they have a hobby. And so with this question that we're diving into is, and I'll go back and I'll read it again just so we have it exactly. How can I incorporate more of these, the whole list that you made of what brings you joy, what brings you fulfillment? How can I incorporate more of these into my daily life or future plans? So some of these may be things that you could do every day. All right. Maybe you say, I really love to read. Like I get joy from reading. I get joy from getting lost in a book, and I just never do that. And so maybe you incorporate 15 minutes a day. And you set a goal that for, 2025, you say, you know what, I'm going to just block out my calendar 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes before I go to bed, or I'm going to get up 15 minutes early, or on my lunch break, I'm going to sneak out of the office. I'm going to go sit in my car and I'm going to read for 20 minutes. And I'm just going to incorporate more of this into my day. It really brings me joy. Maybe instead you said, I really love to crochet. I'm artistic. I love to knit. I love to needlepoint. And that's not maybe something that you can do every day, but you're going to sit down and you're going to find one time a week. You're going to look at your plan sheet one time a week and you're going to carve out just even 30 minutes to do that. Maybe on a Friday night, you're going to just do 30 minutes. Um, what is it that you want to do? So, for example, I'll give you an example. So, for me, I shared with you guys yesterday that a couple of years ago, I decided to go back and take piano lessons. I wanted something that was, I wasn't monetizing it. It wasn't a job. It wasn't a business. It wasn't building a business. It was literally just something I could do for fun that fulfilled the creative part of me that I had lost. You know, my background was in theater. I was a theater major and I went to theater school and I was, dancing and I was a dance minor and I played the piano. And so I had all these creative outlets that over time, have just got pushed to the wayside as I've moved into a more entrepreneurial journey. And so I said, I just want to do something fun. And I took piano lessons. Well, that meant I had to carve out time for the lesson, right? I had to show up every week. And then I had to find time every day, even if it was just 15 minutes to practice, right? That I had to make sure I sat down for at least 15 minutes. So often it would just be right before I would start cooking dinner. I would sit down and just practice for a little bit. We moved, so I lost my piano teacher, and my piano is like sitting across from me here. And I'm like, I want to go back to take lessons. But it was something that I really like enjoy and really love, right? And so I had to find the time for it. Right now, I'm in a season because I have moved. I'm in a new area. I don't know a lot of people here, and I'm going to be here now for at least the next couple of years. That I said to myself, you know what? If I don't want to feel so isolated, I live in a town where I really don't know anybody. And I moved from a community where I had been for 10 years and knew, a good amount of people there. So I said, okay, I need to start to show up and meet people. So one of my, resolutions, goals, whatever you want to, I like just making a decision. One of my decisions was I'm going to look for one event a week where I can get out and network either professionally or socially. So this could be a mom's group that's getting together for, networking. This could be a social happy hour meetup group. But one thing a week that I can start to meet people, and sometimes I've chosen to do virtual because it's just been easier and it's fit better into my schedule. There's tons of virtual events. We actually do in the Hey Girl You Can community, we do a virtual what would you call it, a virtual networking event every single month. If anybody wants to come and check it out, DM me. I'll send you a coupon code for a free ticket. If you're in the Hey Girl You Can community, you get this free as part of your membership. But every month we come together, we do a little bit of training. Something last month we talked about how to introduce yourself because people hate doing that 1 minute intro. And so we don't do that during our networking event, but we went over and we did a deep dive on how to do that, on how do you introduce yourself. So you can come, I'll give you a free ticket. Just DM me and say, hey, I watched your 20 questions. You were talking about the networking event. Can you give me a coupon code and come join us? It's a women's event. It's nice. It's intimate. We do breakout rooms. And it's a great way to connect and interact. So sometimes for me, it's just that virtual event, right? It's finding a virtual event that I can show up in. But what is it that you want to do? And then actually putting on your calendar. And guys, even if it's just once a month right now, even if you say to me, Tara, all I can do is find once a month. Or maybe you said, I really love to travel and I don't get to travel. Well, all right, let's talk about that. When you say travel, does it have to be on a plane? Could it be a weekend trip? Could it be a day trip? One of the things that my daughter and I used to do, and I really miss this, I like feel like I now that she's in college, I'm like, oh, let's come hang out with your mom. But one of the things that we used to do is we called them adventure days. And we would just kind of pick a random destination. We didn't really know much about it. And we would just drive there and go see what was there. We would take maybe a weekend trip and we would just see what was there. I remember one time, one of our best trips was we found this random Groupon for a place in Sturbridge. Sturbridge, is that Connecticut? I'm not sure. And it was this wild place. It was kind of run down. It reminded me of like a like a place that would have been the Dirty Dancing place, like in its heyday. It had an indoor pool that wasn't in the greatest shape. It was on a lake, which was really beautiful. But it was kind of like there was a reason it was a Groupon, right? There was not a lot of people there, and it reminded me. I felt like I had taken a step back in time. Like if I had just come here 50 years before, I could picture this place filled with like, kind of like the Dirty Dancing place. But we went on this weekend and it was new. Had just come back to New Jersey. I had like no money to go on vacation. I found this Groupon. We went. had never been, in the area before. And it was just an adventure weekend. We found this little great ice cream shop that was on top of a hill. We found this whole historical village. Like it was just exploring and being like, all right, we're here. What can we find? And it was so fun. And so we've done these adventure weekends where we'll just go someplace and figure out, or an adventure day and just go for the day and see what's in the area and what can we find. And you might be surprised. There's probably really cool things that are in your area that you haven't seen. You just didn't dig deep enough, right? You just didn't look. You were so busy and just doing life, right? So maybe your sense of adventure, maybe you could get on a plane and you say, okay, I'm going to start to incorporate travel more. I want to travel once a quarter, or I want to make sure I travel at least twice a year because we haven't been doing that. What can you do to travel more? But it might also be that, hey, I just don't have the budget to travel a lot more. And so maybe it makes more sense to look for some really great last minute deals. There's if you live on a coast, you might be able to find like where you do the last minute cruise deals. You might find something like if you're by yourself, maybe looking at could you do something like trusted house sitters, where you go and you house sit for people for their dogs and their cats, but you could literally travel all over the world doing that. I have friends who've been living that way, literally living that way, where they travel and through like trusted house sitters and those types of sites. So here's what I would say: whatever you think the obstacle is. Oh, I can't do that because I don't have the money to do that. Oh, I can't do that because I don't have the time to do that. Oh, I can't do that because I don't have the resources to do that. I want you to stop and ask yourself and say, what if that wasn't true? What am I not seeing here? What opportunities are here that I'm missing? Where could I incorporate this that maybe I haven't figured that out yet? And just start to ask that question and start to see what shows up. Um, maybe there's somebody who would house swap with you. Maybe you have somebody who is like, oh, you could barter. They have a great, uh, you know, condo at ski condo, and they need something that you have a skill in, right? I think sometimes we've forgotten that for a long time, that's how the world worked, in a barter system, right? And so, what opportunities are there? What are you not seeing, or what have you closed yourself off to because you've already decided it's not possible? And what if it was possible? How could you incorporate more of that? And it literally might be you do a virtual tour. Have you ever done a virtual tour? I've done a virtual tour where they take you log in and they take you on a tour to some fabulous city. There's companies that do this. So maybe it's not travel in the way that you're thinking. Maybe it's a little bit different, but it would still fill and bring you joy and bring you fulfillment. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for more ways to find joy and fulfillment. Because when we are experiencing joy and fulfillment, and we are vibrating at a different energy level where we are feeling fulfilled and we're feeling good, we will show up as a completely different energetic being in our world. Our soul will operate differently because we're filling a deep need in our soul for who we are. Think of it as like giving oxygen to yourself. Right. So how can you incorporate? And if you're in the Hey Girl You Can community, hop over to our group, put that in our group. Let us know, what are you going to do to incorporate these things? If you're not part of Hey Girl You Can, guys, it's $8 right now. $8 a month. You get 4 events, a resource library, a private community. Like, why are you not joining us over there? That would be my question. It's gonna be the best $8 you spent, right? So head over there and put that in the group. Otherwise, put it here in the comments, or if you're watching the replay, put it in the comments. I do look and read all the comments, just so you know. But how are you going to incorporate that? And then where are you going to put that in your calendar? And I just want to challenge you today that you sit down with your calendar, with your date book, and you at least schedule it once. Schedule one time in your date book. When are you going to do whatever it was that you wrote down yesterday? And whether that's a weekly thing, a monthly thing. Now, maybe you need to talk to your significant other and say, hey, part of this new year, it's really important to me that I start to do more things that bring me joy. And this is something that I really love, and I've realized I just don't do it. How can you, can you work with me? Can you support me so that I can figure out a way to do this? Especially maybe if you have kids and you need your spouse to help watch those kids, watch his kids. I will say that. I've always been heard and say, I have to see if my husband will babysit. I'm like, you mean watch his children? Watch his own, because moms, we don't babysit, right? But this might be, think about it this way. This might be a win-win for everybody. Maybe now the kids get more time alone with dad. that they really would love, that he would really love, and you get to go do that thing that you would really love. Like, how can this be a win-win for everybody? And it may mean that you need to adjust your schedule a little bit. Maybe you do need to get up a little bit earlier, or maybe you do need to, cut out some other things that aren't bringing you a lot of joy in order to carve in the time for the things that do bring you joy. How will you feel? How will you feel doing these things? How will you feel looking forward to having this time carved out in your schedule for the thing that brings you fulfillment? Often, how we show up in the world is based on how we feel. And how we feel is really starts with how we think. We do this in the Total Transformation Day. Part of the process, one of the processes that we go through and we start with is that thinking cycle. That our reality, everything we're experiencing, really comes down to what we thought first. We think that we are guided by what we how we don't real well I should say this, we don't realize that we are guided by how we feel, but that how we feel is a chemical reaction based on what we think about that. And that starts with the thought. And so if we want to really transform and change our life, it's kind of breaking that cycle. This is one of the very first exercises we do in the workbook during the Total Transformation Day. And so we do have one coming up in a couple of weeks. If you are wanting to be part of that, that is an immersive day. You work with me in a very small group setting over Zoom for the day. The idea is that rather than taking a course that is maybe, weeks long, multiple modules, having to carve out time for that, or a whole weekend away, just so you know, we did a Total Transformation weekend. It's hard for a lot of people to get away for an entire weekend. So this is a 1-day intensive to really transform your life, give you actionable steps that you leave headed in a new direction. It is really, really powerful. It comes from all of the best of the best training that I have invested in the last 27 years and kind of rolled into one day. What is the key things that made transformational change in my life? And so that's what you get with that. So that is, there's multiple ways that you can start to make these changes. And maybe right now, you don't want to do the transformation day. You don't want to do the Hey Girl You Can community. You're like, just give me the workbook. Just give me the work. Give me the questions. Let me work through this. Let me journal. Take a positive step. The workbook's free. Grab it. It's free. Take a positive step, because if you do nothing, nothing's going to change. Change is going to happen first from you choosing to do something different. And if you are not living the life that you feel like this is it, I have hit the jackpot, I love getting up. Now, doesn't mean that every day is perfect. It means that you feel like I'm really walking down the path exactly where I'm supposed to be. And if you are, that is fantastic. And if you are not, then I truly, truly pray that 2025 is the year that you step on the path that is going to lead you the direction that you know is your destiny, that you know there you were, that saying, you were meant for more. Because I believe that you have a purpose and that you are here to make an impact. And it is not just to live, pay bills, and die. It is to experience joy and peace and fulfillment and love and gratitude, and to have impact and significance. And that is the whole reason we want to reinvent our life. We want to move closer to that ultimate that God planned for you, that the universe wants for you. Okay, you deserve this. So I'd love to hear, what are your things that bring you joy and fulfillment, and how are you going to incorporate those into your life? And then tomorrow we will tackle number 5. Have a great day, everybody.